Hello and welcome to the program. This is Money Line with Nancy, and I am Nancy Naji. On Monday, the sun set abruptly in the sky and our clouds turned dark as our dearly beloved founder, Chairman Emeritus, husband, father, friend, mentor, colleague, changemaker, and trailblazer gracefully took a bow from the side of the divide. If words can paint a picture, it will paint a masterpiece of a life well lived, of dreams achieved, of impact made, and of lives changed. High Chief Raymond Dokbese was larger than life. He lived purposefully until his last day. He dreamt of a better Nigeria, and he walked his talk. He put Nigeria on a global map by launching the first independent radio station and privately owned 24-hour TV station. His profound impact on the media industry cannot be overstated. At a time when public TV and radio stations dictated a singular narrative, he fearlessly broke free from the constraints of conventional wisdom. His boldness and foresight transformed the way Nigerians consumed news and entertainment, offering diverse perspectives and fostering a culture of unbiased reporting. His commitment to presenting a balanced, comprehensive view of society played a pivotal role in empowering individuals and facilitating democratic discourse. He pushed frontiers, he stirred the pot, he fought the good fight, and he won the race. To me, High Chief Raymond Dokbese was a father who believed in the capacity of a young woman who invested not just in resource, but in words of encouragement and affirmations, even up till his last day. He pushed me, he gave me a platform, he gave me the freedom to explore change and be the best version of myself that I can be. He gave me the opportunity to bring my chair to the table, to have a seat at the table, and he validated my competence, my capacity, and presence at the table. I will forever be grateful for the rare privilege to have had the opportunity to call you a father, a friend, a mentor, and my biggest supporter. If tears could bring you back, you would be here with us today, because of the number of lives you've changed, the number of stories that have been rewritten, the number of people you have touched with your kindness, belief, hope, and friendship. You were a beacon of light, and you shone brightly. You lit up the world, and today, though you are not with us, you are with the Lord, your light keeps shining, and it keeps shining through us, whom you set the same fire that was within you. My deepest and most heartfelt condolences goes to his immediate family, the Dark Communications family, his friends, and everyone who was a part of his life. I pray that the good Lord gives all of us the fortitude to bear this irreparable loss. Daddy, like I fondly call you, I will forever miss you on this side of life. Just as I said on Sunday, just a few hours to your passing, who would have told me? It's not a goodbye. It's a see you later. Rest in the bosom of the Lord. You are loved, your memories are cherished, and you continue to live in our hearts, our hero. High Chief Raymond Alejo Dokbese. Rest in peace. Let's quickly take a break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the program. In case you're just joining us, it's still Moneyline with Nancy, and my guest is here, Professor Ken Ife, development economist. Prof, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. And I really want to start by sharing the profound tribute that you paid to High Chief Raymond Dokbese. He's a man of outstanding personality. We all know that. I can only offer my sincere condolences and sympathy.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you. Let's get started. It's also on that fateful day that
I know.
that the new president was inaugurated. Who would have told Ian Benga? We were here from 6 a.m. or 6:30 a.m. till about 2:30 p.m. What was happening, you know. But the solace for us really is that if High Chief was still with us, he would say, "You guys should go on with your job.
Correct.
You know, the show must go on." So with that solace and that's, you know, that's actually what we are using to power on. So May 29th, President Tinubu was inaugurated. Everyone was waiting for his speech. I was actually particularly waiting to hear what he would say, his first, that's his inaugural address. What was your impression about his speech? Just give me an overall impression in like a minute, then we can break it down.
I think it was a good speech, you know, to be honest with you. He sued for peace. He pledged allegiance to a united Nigeria, which he said would continue to exist as long as the earth is, which is a profound commitment. And then he also he opened his arms to people to join and was happy to work with people of competence to deliver a national agenda. He also didn't mince words about insecurity, that he has to deal with that. And it's very important because peace and security, without those, they will undermine any economic agenda. So it's very important that that came up front. And then, of course, he went into the economic agenda and spent quite some time on that, with very clear objectives and very clear messages.
So did that speech give you an indication of what is likely to come? What exactly is in his brain about how he would govern, what his policies would be concerning Nigeria? Was that speech an indicator?
Yeah, as a development economist, I can see everything that he has in mind in this speech. But of course, for the public, we have to unpack this speech to them. There are some silent messages, some coded messages, and some were over the board, if I could say that. And you could see the ripple of some of that. But by and large, I could see where he's going to. And if time permits in our discussion, I'll try and unravel those to the understanding of the citizens.
Now, what does that speech really mean for the economy? And like I always say on this program, that for anyone in authority, your words could really mean a lot. Your words can either build or it can destroy. Immediately we saw President Tinubu say, fuel subsidy is gone.
Yeah.
Because there's no budgetary provision for it.
Yeah.
Since Monday, we know what's been happening now. Well,
this is what I said, that there were some where he punched very hard, and I think it could have been softer if it was less diplomatic on that particular point. Because, if I was saying, I would have said, well, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, I would just say that the law requires that this goes by August last year. That was deferred. And you have no intention of changing the law going forward from 30th of June. Secondly, I would have been saying that there was no financial provision for it to go forward anyway. And so I'm giving you notice that in the next 30 days, it will take its course. At least the panic could not have started immediately. And then finally, he will close by saying, we have 30 days to get all stakeholders together to talk about the consequence of this and what government can do to help. And of course, in that stakeholders meeting, NNPC will be saying, we guarantee that we would have 1 or 2 refineries on board. And then Dangote's group will say, well, we guarantee that some of our refined products will be entering the equation. So that all these stakeholders get a feel that there is a commitment going forward to reduce the pain, to assure that there won't be long queues, something like that. But he's dropped it as a bomb, and then, but we're going to get there anyway.
No, but would you also blame a President Tinubu dropping it as a bomb? Because even before his inauguration, before his assumption of office as president, now, a lot of economists analysts were saying, I expect a President Tinubu, this first inaugural address, his inaugural address, to say there's no subsidy anymore and all of that.
Well, I agree with you. He has said it many times during the election.
Yes, even in his manifesto.
Yeah, but it's not me and you. You're talking to a public that are speculative, largely speculative, opportunism. So the way he said it, people thought it would happen tomorrow, that the price would change tomorrow, rather than know that it is coming, but it is to the end of June. You know, people didn't see that grace, and we have to come back to tell them, wait a minute, it's not actually going to go till end of June. You know, people are just, you know, but it doesn't matter.
But do you think that it would have even made any difference if President Tinubu had been diplomatic, as you're saying, to say, guys, just hold on, this fuel subsidy will still be on till the end of June, perhaps from the 1st of July, we'll take our hands off it. Do you think it will really move the needle, trusting the kind of way Nigerians, our behavioral pattern? You know what I'm talking about. Some would even start hoarding the commodity from that May 29th.
Well, no, the difference you would have made, so that this doesn't dominate our discussion, because we have a lot to get by. I wouldn't have seen Labour saying whatever they're saying yesterday. You know, they wouldn't have been coming forward. They would have heard that, oh, we're going to get into serious talks now in the next 30 days. So if they're going to give ultimatum or whatever, it has to be at the end of the month of June before they begin to flex muscles. But it doesn't matter. This is inevitable anyway, because that thing is just a cancer on the society. Okay,
Prof, let me give you a free hand. Where would you want to start unpacking from his speech? Let me allow you, because we also need to lay there that President Tinubu, even right from his campaigning days, we had a feel, of course, he's pro-business, he's been governor before. He's pro-business, he's pro-market. But where would you start to unpack from his speech? Because we have security, we have monetary policy, you have, he talked about the Naira, he talked about jobs, he talked about agriculture. So where for you did hit the nerve?
Okay, let me start with, you know, you always start with policy and objectives, so that other things will come in. He said he will work towards a GDP that is greater than 6%. But he made a link between that GDP and employment. But I need to disabuse the link, because GDP, the components of GDP are investment, then you have output, you have consumption, and then you have balance of payments, you know, the difference. So you can borrow money, the system sees it, the statistics sees it as an investment. But that investment could go in consumption of, you know, paying salaries or doing things that are not going to be economical. So that will not create any job. Do you understand? It's only, and from him making link between GDP growth and jobs means that he is actually taking the next one, which is we're going to borrow if we have to borrow because we don't have any national savings. Obviously, who goes are borrowing, goes are sorrowing, only to the extent that it was not fit for the purpose. But according to our law, our fiscal law, FRA 2007, if that borrowing is purposeful and there is good justification for it, and you have, you know, analysis, good analysis that shows it's going to work, it will target infrastructure or capital expenditure and human resource development. Once you are linking to human resource development, then you are now going to create jobs. But then the economic activity that you are going to create by investing is the one that creates the jobs. The jobs give disposable income. Disposable income gives you ability to buy education, buy health, and buy your way out of poverty in a sustainable manner. So that connection means this is the direction he is going. But then they also need to understand also, which it was true, I could see that, federal government in the National Medium-Term Development Plan says we're going to raise investment of 350 trillion. But we, all levels of government, can only come with 50, just under 50, 49 point. Private sector, you guys get the 300 trillion. So for a start, 85%, private sector is going to find 85%. So that means that there's going to be more aggression in looking to get to work with the private sector. And there are many signals from this speech that shows it's going to have a real go at it. I don't want multiple taxation. That's one of the complaints of investors wanting to come into the space. oh, I'm going to make sure that I invest. I don't want fuel subsidy. And then one of the reasons he didn't want it is because he wants to take that money and put in health and education, which is human resource development. Now you are connecting labor force again. So you could see that all that link. So this is why I said we'll start from the policy and come down. But is it achievable? 6% growth? Absolutely. Because, by the time you touch one or two things, we'll be flying.
How fast can he achieve a GDP? Because I think in his manifesto, a GDP growth of 12% was written there. But how fast is it to even achieve a GDP growth? Let's halve that of 6%.
It is possible.
Yeah, coming from the GDP of Q1 was just released, 2.3%. Coming from a country that has been struggling with a 3% GDP growth. Full year for 2022, 3.1%. First quarter 2023, 2.3%. President Tinubu is promising a 12% GDP growth in 4 years. Yeah. But now let's halve it. Let's be a bit economical and say, how can he achieve a 6% GDP growth from now, which is we're in the second quarter, till the end of this year, with a budget of over 21 trillion naira that was not created by him, with a debt servicing cost, deficit and all of that. Yes, so let's
90%.
Let's just be factual, because it's not politics is over now. We are going to be crutching the numbers. You're going to be saying exactly. So politics is over. It's about governance. So how possible is that going to be?
It is possible, but I don't think he will hit that 6% by the end of this year. But he could hit 5%. Now let me tell you why it's possible. Take 500 billion every month that NNPC was pushing us into subsidizing petrol. If you save that 500 billion and decide to put 100 billion in infrastructure, 100 in education, 100 in security, 100 billion in health, and all that, that already looks like an investment. And then if you go to GDP, remember what I said, you have investment, you have output, you have consumption, and then you have balance of. So immediately you see output going up because you are investing in those sector. And then you see investment also going up. And then when you also have money going, because once you employ and pay, then you have to see more consumption because people now use the money that they earn to consume. So you can see all those three going up, pushing the GDP output up. We haven't even talked about when he comes into the domain. Let's say, for example, he decided to do something that we have always been begging government to do. Grant amnesty on the monies that are out of the country. We know it's over 600 billion over the years that are out of the country. Find a way of granting amnesty. Something like, if you pay 30% tax or some percentage of tax, then this is regularized. Can you imagine over $100 billion will come in here from monies that are sitting somewhere there? And then look at what that could mean to the outputs I have talked about. Output, consumption, investment as components of GDP. And let me give you another one that will probably seal this. He said credit culture. You know what he's alluding to in credit culture is this is a cash economy. If you want a car, you have to pay cash, 100%. You want a house, they want you to pay 100% for the house. I mean, that is not sustainable. That doesn't promote growth. If you have higher purchase, lease purchase, and easy credit by credit creation policies, what happens is, forget the banks for a moment, because the bank keeps kicking against this. We've been talking and begging for this to happen. Mr. Thatcher did it in 1980 when I was doing my PhD in UK. He just opened up, and then you have all the petrodollars, and those dollars in the Middle East, Arabs bring money to set up credit creation agencies, and then they were issuing cards. What has happened is the funding of the industry moves away from going to banks to get money. You now have customer finance. So if somebody is making a car and is only producing 1,000 because of the constraint, now people will come. You come to you say Innocent. He said, okay, you put down 10%, you drive off a car. By the end of the year, he produces 10,000 instead of 1,000. Because people come in, put a deposit, and they pay the rest over 3 years. A year after, they bring back that same car, drop it,
Take another one.
And take another one. This guy keeps producing. And the overhead that he would have based only on 1,000 cars will now be spread to 10,000 cars. Prices come down because he has spread his overhead over a higher number of output. Secondly, we have 400,000 second-hand cars coming from Cotonou. But officially, what we import is 200,000 cars. That market will be dented because we are now having returns of our car for second-hand. You destroy that market. So now look at what that means. The whole money that is going to come into the economy for purpose of creating a credit explosion, and then the fact that manufacturers are going to be producing more because the consumer buying is there, and the fact that the consumers are actually buying more. All of those three go up to the GDP. So, you know, it's doable. It's just doable. And not to talk of what happens to NNPC with this, because all that shenanigan around how much we are consuming in petrol, all that it will walk away. Because by the time Dangote starts giving us a good quantity of his fuel, you can't expect him to give everything because he's in a free trade zone. And then, of course, he's going to get his crude from 3 continents. Some of those may be refined for me and bring it back. So we can't be too presumptuous. So, but what happens is that there's going to be an entirely different economic system that is going to evolve. And then when he comes to talk to central bank, I'm sure there are other rough areas that could be improved. There's a lot.
He talked about also monetary policy needing house cleaning. In fact, he said thorough house cleaning. He mentioned that the interest rates now at 18.5% is anti-business and anti-people. He talked about the exchange rate.
Yeah.
That gap, there's so much gap between the official, the I&E window, and the street market. How do you think that can be achieved vis-a-vis what President Tinubu?
Yeah, it's achievable.
So why is it that the CBN did not achieve it since?
No, please. They are facing different economic circumstances, and there are different political leadership.
Okay, is it different economic circumstances? Because the economic circumstances are still here now, or different political leadership, I can agree.
First of all, you say in economic circumstances. First of all, what is driving our economy is speculation. The markets you mentioned, the forex market and all that, speculation plays a huge role. And the capital market reads the people, they read the leadership, so they know it's not going to be business as usual. But let me explain something. What the things you mentioned, exchange rate, inflation, high interest rate, high monetary policy rate, these are prices. They are prices. And in any issue around price, you must look at demand and supply perspective to get to the bottom of it. So, and one thing that I was so happy about his presentation, the presentation, is that he didn't say, like he said on petroleum, what's it called, on what do you call this, fuel subsidy. He didn't say we're going to have a unified interest rate tomorrow. He says we will work towards a unified. So that calmed everybody's nerves. Because if he had said it was going to be tomorrow, I'm telling you, you will see massive reaction. Speculations will be so rife, and then you wouldn't know which directions they will go. Now, when you look at the demand and supply perspective of income and price, for example, you are going to be looking at, we only look at prices, revenue, because it should be revenue. But the only revenue we look at is domestic revenue coming from tax. And even then, we are still a low tax constituency because we're only 7% of our GDP, when others are average is even 18%. And the likes of Ghana are over 18%, South Africa 24% and all that. Now, when you look at those revenue, look at, apart from the domestic one, which is in Naira, look at Forex. Forex is revenue. That's Forex revenue. And when you look at the Forex revenue, why it's so important is 79% of that Forex revenue in dollars comes from crude. 10% comes from gas. Together, 90%. So it's only 10% that is within the purview of the central bank. In other words, what it gets from diaspora remittance, what it gets from FDI, foreign direct investment, and portfolio investment, they cancel out. And then invisible revenue. So all of that are so small compared to the quantum of forex input that could have come in. Now, just look at, let's try and add it up a little bit. NNPC used to send $3 billion every month to central bank, and then you plus whatever else they get in their 10%. But they're only doing about 300 million.
They've not even been doing for the past two,
the
3
whole
years.
of 2012 didn't do anything.
They've not been putting FX into CBN
Okay,
for the past how many years?
So now look at that. This is on the side of forex revenue. Now, CBN needs $1.8 billion every month to disburse, to pay for the interest on our dollar-denominated loans, and then to pay for imports, especially those that go to MSMEs and the invincibles. That is what they need, 1.8 billion. Then you go to the other side of the demand for import from the private sector. It has been $4.6 billion since 2014. It still continued. Now, can you try and add the two? 4.6 billion plus 1.8 billion, is it not around 7 billion? Against what incoming? You can't, you have to close the gap. How do you close the gap? The new policy trust of Bola Tinubu should be able to answer how to close that gap. That's why I was beginning to point at some of the areas where he can open up and there will be more inflow of dollars. If you ever just leave it like that and make a pronouncement that it is going to be $380 every, you will see what will happen. You will see what will happen, because if you look at the disbursement, about 90% of the transactions go on the NAFEX window, whereas about less than 10 is actually in that area of import. The moment you move the price closer, so if you look at the equilibrium price from 760 compared to 450, the equilibrium price will be nearer to the NAFEX price. But once you move away to, let's say, 500, now look at what will happen to the majority. They will move to 500, and then more demand that you never seen will come on board. So what you will have is see gradual drift, or not even gradual, a rapid drift in the equilibrium exchange rate to about 200 naira to $1. So it will just continue, because you haven't had a good plan to bring in more forex revenue. You are not looking at balancing the demand and supply. You just want to make, so that is the danger. So, but when their management team, economic team, goes and sits with central bank to look deeper into what exactly is going on, then the sooner they do that, the better it will be for us to run, because Petrol Q is a response to the statement of subsidy.
I was coming to that.
But if you get it wrong by making any statement that doesn't add up, the speculation in the market, you know how the market, you can't control the market, because when you lose, you've lost. Before you recoup it again, you see shares of companies drop, you see things happen, and they are not recoverable. The Q you can disperse any day by just releasing more for your grand price. But it's not the same with the capital market and all that.
So what do you think, now there's a President Tinubu, what do you think would happen to the Naira? I'm taking a look at, I want us to, that's your own forecast. What will happen to the Naira moving forward? Because as he's pro-business, he's pro-market, as it were. What will happen to the Naira? What will happen to the economy? How much latitude should we give President Tinubu? Because he understands what he's coming to face. And just like we said on Monday during the inauguration program, there's a Chinese proverb that says, of course, if there's a crisis, there's an opportunity. He also has that opportunity to be a statesman. He has the opportunity right now to have his name written in history books that Nigeria was faced with a myriad of crises, economic crisis, security crisis, and a President Tinubu took us out of the doldrums and gave us stability. What do you see?
No, let me tell you, I was watching one interview of former President Babangida, and he was asked about what he thought about President Tinubu's. He said, look at what he said. He said that President Tinubu is smart, and 2, he will fix Nigeria. And that is from former President Babangida. What I'm saying is that if you look at the nature of the things, me and you, the areas we have been pointing out, there are going to be more influx of dollar from tuning all of these areas. For example, with the circumstance, I mean, there's, you know me and you were asking about circumstance. The economic circumstance has changed. The fact that Dangote announced the opening of the factory has changed the whole equation.
Of the...
No, wait a minute. He gets in more fuel into the system. We stop the hemorrhage on our budget of 500 billion every 6 trillion in a year. We'll stop that. Now, we have not been receiving revenue from crude because NNPC did a crude swap with the refiners, push the crude out to them and take PMS in return. That is, I can understand that. And then even with that, does it mean there's no gain? He turns around to government and says, you are owing me under recovery, 500 billion every month. How? Now, with what could happen, that 500 billion story is gone. With what could happen, they have no justification to push that crude out. So if you are pushing it out, it's just to sell it and give us what? Give us dollar. So more dollar will come.
So does that
without a doubt, more dollar will come.
Prof, does that also mean, because we have a minute to go, does that also mean that when the fuel subsidy is over, there's a Dangote refinery by the side which would start, supplying? What would also be the role of Moman, Ipman, and all marketers? No. What would also be the role of even NNPC in the whole equation? I hope you understand what I mean. Does that mean that they can also go out and import fuel like what we were seeing last time, but they would have to now, the markets will dictate it? Because there's a Dangote, we should not also hinge only on Dangote. There's a Dangote, there are also oil marketers.
There are modular refineries as well.
Yes.
One or two have started. I remember this argument when I was discussing some of these arguments in one board meeting. And then I said, and what I was getting back from the NNPC side is, look, once we remove the subsidy, all these new refineries will come in. They are waiting for subsidy to be removed. There are people that are waiting for the subsidy to be removed before they will invest in the refining process.
But that's a mid to long term.
No, modular refineries you can deliver
I know,
in 6 months.
That's for modular.
Yeah, but the oil marketers, if Dangote wasn't ready, my advice to government is just call them and rein them in and say, look, you know what? I'm going to do backward integration. If you don't show me your modular refinery, you will not lift my crude and bring them back. You're not going to do the same thing Obasanjo did with Dangote on cement. So that would have been a very radical thing, but it's still not possible. Because what happens is that if they have their refinery, they can actually use their tank farm to export their refined product. So more people will come into this space. And now there's an incentive for NNPC to actually complete their refinery refurbishment. Because before, that equation wasn't a balanced equation.
Okay, will it only be for NNPC to complete the rehabilitation of those refineries, or will it be now that the refineries can also be open to investment by private sector? Some are of the school of thought, just close it and shut it down.
Don't forget that Dangote paid $650 million for 2 refineries.
Yes, we thought it on
and Yaradua came in and returned his money for him, which I thought was the worst mistake we could have made. He would have sorted those 2 refineries, he would have expanded them, he would have put $2-3 billion, and we would never have been where we are today.
Okay,
what I'm saying is this: more people will come into this space. There is now competition. NNPC government might say to NNPC, stop importing fuel, focus on exporting crude. Nothing would happen.
Okay.
It will all be our dollar comes back to beef up the foreign forex. Honestly, it's a different economic circumstance right now. And
you're taking me to different economic circumstances, and we don't have time for that, because what's also coming to my mind is that we're seriously now hoping on Dangote refineries, so to speak, so that we don't create a kind of monopoly in that sector. If I understand the issue of modular refineries, that we also need other refiners to come into that sector. But that will be a discussion for another day, Prof.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us. All right, I've been speaking with Professor Ken Ife, who is a development economist, and we've been unpacking President Tinubu's inaugural speech, especially looking at his economic directions. That's it for today. Please join us again tomorrow. I am Nancy Naji. Be the best you can be, and be that change that you want to see. Bye now.